necessarily of my lovely partner Nicole, who may see things differently sometimes. She actually has her own mind, so later when you have questions, you might have questions for her, and she might answer very differently than I would. So first, just to kind of warm up, I'm super nervous, super exhausted. We just finished our farming season and the farmer's market, and we're at the tail end of our 3-year, we hope the end of our 3-year legal battle in Lanceville. And so we'll be sharing a bit about that, primarily to inspire you. So at the first it may sound somewhat dark, and so please be patient and bear with us. We'll be turning it to a positive, and just I'm not that kind of person. I don't need to find a silver lining or see the positive things. And actually, contrary to my kind of Germanic upbringing, having said that, we are able to look back and see some of the learning. So just to get a better sense of you folks, so I know a little bit more about all these wonderful converts in the room. How many of you, and keep your hand up, how many of you drink coffee? Excellent. And how many of you drink fair trade organic coffee? Excellent. So you notice how it was almost exactly the same, so that gives me, and how many of you buy the majority, if you buy fuel, how many of you buy the majority of your fuel from the Mid-Island Co-op? Excellent. Working on it. And, sorry? Well, I'm sorry. How many of you buy your majority of your fuel from some kind of non-huge corporation rather than from some kind of co-op? Excellent. Okay, that's more accurate. Sorry about that. Thank you for that gentle feedback. Rather than say, he's not asking the right question. Thank you, Martina. And how many of you do the majority of your, and note the language, financial transactions, not banking, the majority of your financial transactions with a credit union? Ooh, this is a great clue. Okay, so I don't have to hold back too much, right? Yeah, it's funny, we really want to go to a place called the Imperial Bank of Commerce, the Royal King, or the Martian commercial, right? Or the Toronto Dominion Bank. Every time I see a First Nations bank go in one of those, I'm like, do you really want to go in there, man? It just freaks me out. Okay, so we're gonna. Normally I'm kind of a wing it kind of person, but I want you to know that for 3 weeks I've lost sleep over this talk because most of our talks are more directed to like gardening groups that want to learn how to grow food and that kind of thing. Not so much this kind of group. So we did some massaging and made some shifts, and so this will be pretty much a almost brand new talk from what we normally do. So I ask for your patience and compassion. Thank you. And so I'll just break it down for you so you know what's going to happen. So first, we will tell you a little bit of our story, and then we will go through the slides really quick. Then we'll do some questions, and normally I like people to interrupt me during the slides, but because we have so little time, I'm going to back through those because I know all of you have great memories. Maybe we'll hold those questions. And then last, I'd like to show a very quick video. It's like 3 minutes at the very end, and then close. Okay? And then so, a little bit of housekeeping. First, I'd like to say thank you to all the amazing women in this room. Farming very much now is being led by women. And whether we can endlessly debate whether it's nurture or nature, for thousands of years, women have demonstrated their tendency and their skill at tending and befriending and working in cooperation. And so many farm operations, even if it's on borrowed, leased, cooperative land, right now is being done by groups of 3, 4, 5 women. And how many civil servants here working for any kind of government agency? Also want to thank you folks. Over the years you've taken quite a few hits with the leaning on the shovel or paper shark and all of this. Fact of the matter is, even though the system treated us very poorly, a number of government representatives who came to our house gave us the very best treatment I've ever received. So I just want to say that now so it doesn't sound like I'm leading up to VHI. So we got some really great treatment. Okay. Do you want to put the slide on? What should we put on for the talk? Well, find something. Go ahead. Okay, before and after. This is our place. We bought it. Yeah, let's just touch on that. We bought a place 13 years ago. The land was up to here. It was a Hells Angel biker. He had mined on the property 3 to 5 feet and sold all the soil and had a screening operation, owned a full-size dump truck and excavator, and that's what he did for 6 years. I guess that was legal. I guess that was okay. In any case, and now we'd like an after photo. So this is what we've been doing for the last 13 years. This is a solar energy collector here. So before we buy solar panels, just hang on and be outside. Get a clothesline. So about 10 years ago, we started farming very seriously. That's what we do for a living. That's our almost sole source of income. We recently stopped publishing Synergy after 10 years, just too tired. There's a whole stack in front of the room here, has my email and our contact info on, so please take as many as you like. It's now a collector's item, you can sell on eBay. And so about 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago, we got found to be doing what's referred to as a commercial operation. Land is zoned residential, and technically you're not supposed to sell any of your food, and we were indeed selling it at a farmer's market that we created 6 years ago called the Farmer's Market. Highly successful, has vendors driving as much as 2 hours because it's food only, and so it brings food, mainly food type shoppers, and it's a very great farmer's market. And in short order, because I'm going to go really short here and give you the short version, is the doorbell would ring at 8 o'clock in the morning since we're still sleeping. We don't have cows, so no, not lots of us farmers sleep in. These are exhausted, these weekly work until late at night. Pickling and such, resting chickens, birthing goats, or whatever we're doing. And there was VHOP at the door saying they want to test our water. And then next, the mayor at the time called the Minister of Victoria, not just the local authority, but called the Minister of Agriculture, and ordered an inspection of her property by the Minister of Agriculture. And he was such a lovely man, because he's gone to places where there's big mountains of chicken shit and pigs running loose and everything else, and here he comes to this little place with 2.5 acres and 1 acre in production of just vegetables and a few chickens. Yeah, I don't really see the problem. I'm sorry, but I have to be here. So inspection by the Minister of Agriculture, passed with flying colors, by the way. VHOP, test your water not once, not twice, but 3 times, because the neighbor can trust VHOP. If you have any idea how much power VHOP has, they can shut down entire buildings, they can virtually shut down cities. They are very powerful in terms of their judicial authority, in terms of health and outbreak and that kind of thing. And they can easily have, and I asked, do we have to let you in the house? They said, if you don't, then we come back with the police. So they have lots of authority. And then the mayor at that time also ordered an inspection called the Minister of Environment in Victoria. And then a letter went from the Minister of the Environment in Victoria, and then to the local ministry on Labio in Nanaimo, and then the minister, the environmental officer came to pay a visit, which we also passed with flying colors. So 3 years of this kind of thing. Anyone who wants to have the full chronology, just email us, and we're happy to send you one email with all the steps. So that's a tiny, tiny snippet of 3 years of mind-destroying, relationship-destroying, health-destroying, relationship-destroying, energy down the shitter in a way that I never want to go through, or I never would wish on anyone. Now, having said that, in the meantime, we still kept farming, and we created a new farmers market in Lansville, called the Lansville Farmers Market. We also touched thousands of lives across Canada. A Facebook site formed on our behalf. 1,000 people joined in 4 days. Very quickly, 2,000 people. Money was raised in the thousands by $5 and $20 donations to hire a really fancy, high-tech, super-duper green lawyer from Vancouver who did a smackdown and calmed things down for a little while. We also had tours of the property. We had friends and neighbors joining in, and we've ramped. Things have changed in just the last few years. We used to have one couple come to us for a year and say, we'd like to learn to do what you do. Will you show us? Now we're up to 5 couples. Some of those couples now are already, selling at farmers markets, gotten married, have had a kid, and their primary income now is selling at farmers markets. And anything else that comes to mind, just throw it in, because my mind's already going to all the other things I need to think about. All right. So here's just quickly a little bit of our growing. We practice what was talked about earlier, which is biointensive, which is what the Chinese have been doing for 5,000 years, the French for 250 years. It simply means you're using far less land, soil, water, smaller pathways, and you're really, really trying to feed the land. And so you'll notice the pathways are very, very tiny. You can barely see them, so 4 feet, 5 foot, okay. So I won't read through these, so you're going to have to skim read them, and you can decide, sweetie, how fast to go. You're in charge. Here's Camel River, 1%. Lansville, not that long ago. Woodgrove Mall, the mecca of shopping in Canada. It's the highest per capita shopping space in Canada is in Nanaimo, particularly in the north end. Woodgrove Mall, Costco, Walmart, when in fact that used to be a farm. And it's so funny, it wasn't that long ago we went to logging camps and mining camps and fishing camps, and we went home. Where did we go home to? Right. So the whole notion of zoning, the whole thing of residential zoning being the sacred cow, the dominant feature in our communities, is actually a very brand new thing. So that needs to be kind of reversed, as our good friend the planner in the background has been amazing at espousing today. Those are potatoes. Yep, that was, yep. Probably use some pig when you're a cheater. So there, during the war, you're hooking up the tractor and, you only have so much resources. A little bit of sarsaparilla. I don't think you're really allowed to drink yet, eh? We wouldn't even have the vote then. There's our place again. Note the mixture, note the biodiversity, note the lack of perfect organization. This back here is zucchini. So again, we grow about 16,000 pounds of food. If you see bits of smoothie popping out of my mouth, I apologize. I've been trying to get it out, but it's just keeps coming and coming and coming. And I have to talk to the person. I guess they didn't use a Vitamix A, they must have just used a blender. Okay? So this is March. And so just keep in mind that we're not doing this English garden, cleaning everything, putting everything to bed. We're working more with nature, we're protecting the soil, we're leaving lots of green. Normally I like to run back and forth, but I'm trying to respect the cameraman. I really want to do this. Oh, look at him go, look at him go. Testing, testing. And so it's hard for me to stand still. It really makes my kind of ADD kind of go cuckoo. Like all we can do is get these kids, these ADD kids at school? All they need is a chair to spin on. That's all they need. You make me sit still and I'll become a mass murderer, So I somehow managed to avoid that. I guess because I was always sent to the office, into the corner and outside and pick up garbage. That's what saved me. That's why I never joined the Columbine kids. Okay, sorry about a little dark, but true. All right, so beans, garlic patch. That was false if you're friendly, was it? See, back up there. Clyde's here. See? Yeah. That's me. Not bad for an old guy. Yeah, next. Go ahead. Save water wherever you can, even if you live in an apartment. Oh, that was, these questions were come up. How many of you garden? How many of you grow the majority of your food? And those of you who don't grow the majority of your food, how many of you grow by the majority of your food, like from a farmer's market or some other such source, like farm gate? Fantastic. And so part of where I'm going with this, and I'm wrestling with whether I should tell you what I'm up to, if it isn't already implicit, is I want to inspire you to ramp up some of your activities, to reduce the amount you do what I do, if you do what I do, which is beating people up their heads and point out how bad they are and how they're poisoning themselves and their kids and destroying the earth as we know it, and move more to engaging with people around food. How many people get excited when they smell baking chocolate chip cookies? Can you smell it? You can buy the smell now to put in your house when you sell your house. I should buy some of that, eh? You can actually buy the candle even. Baking chocolate. How about cinnamon buns? Okay? Right? You can even buy a new car smell. That's not really food related, but the principle holds. And so what do you give kids with? What's the most likely thing you're going to give kids when they're acting psycho?
Bed.
Right? Did you say food?
Food outside.
Food outside. Okay. So food. Food is the most common thing I see parents. My area you just hit, but food. And so what's the common thing you have at a wedding?
Food.
Okay, you start to see a pattern here? Wine, right? Yeah, after all the droning and all of that, you can't have that last one. And how about memorials?
Food.
How about Thanksgiving? Christmas? Birthdays? See the pattern? So so when you go home today, I want you to think about the power food has in our lives. I mean, that much power from the smell of chocolate chip cookies. This is very caveman. Cave person, cave woman, right? And so the more that those of us in this room tap into that in our own lives and bring that understanding out into the community, the more you will change the world around you much quicker than by simply getting more information out. And more we're finding, there's more and more studies on the brain and how human beings function, of how hardwired we are, and entrenched in our beliefs and resistant to change. With most of us, especially if we're entrenched in those beliefs, the more information you give us, the more we will resist, the more we will get angry at you as the messenger and say we don't like your tone, and we will eat even more McDonald's. The more we have potlucks and engage with people with food that we have grown and bring it to women's share and all the other things we attend, people say, what's this? Oh, it's just mashed. We went to a potluck once and we were there at 9 o'clock because we were tired. Everyone had eaten, everyone had had nano bars. We brought a bowl of mashed squash People grab crackers and they empty that bowl in 20 minutes. Why? Because their palates, their bodies, on a cellular level, we're still crying out for nutrients, and we're still crying out for beta-carotene and a number of nutrients that were not available to them in that potluck and the stuff in the M&M meat shop in a winter February. Very, very powerful for those people to smell that and see that color. Even though their bellies were full, something within them said, go and eat that, even after they'd had an granola bars. Very, very powerful tool. And then, of course, they asked, what is that? Really? And I had not eaten squash until I was in my 40s because I grew up with meat and potatoes and cheese and, you know, German kind of sauerkraut, bratwurst kind of thing, and I thought they were just decorations. I didn't know. Now Nicole and I eat 600 pounds. And so for years I was trying to sell it to people because I'm like, we're going to make money, honey! We're going to sell garlic and squash. And, you know, we had a hell of a time selling 1,000 pounds. And then finally we're selling 2,000 pounds. So we started eating it and telling people about how good it was. And then I go to the farmer's market, especially the guys with the big guts, and they go, and I go like this, I go, see this? See that? I eat squash. And then they'd go, well, and I eat beer, you know? And then they'd buy some squash. And so now Nicole and I, you know, and I'd say, I have a six-pack. He goes, well, I have a keg, you know? And so I really messed with the man. He has lots of enemies. And so now Nicole and I sell 6,000 pounds of squash, right? And so I'm starting to learn, and thank you for people like you, I'm starting to learn that example is definitely the greatest teacher. We plant our potatoes quite often as much as 2 feet deep. That's a whole other story that people who are really interested in these kinds of things, we can get that question period. Everyone can have a cold frame, even in apartment. You could have a little tote, I don't like to invoke names, like a Rubbermaid with a sheet of plastic over it, piece of plexiglass, and you could be growing your lettuce there in January. Plum tree, lemon tree. Fish totes for storing potatoes. Next slide will make more sense. So we, 10 years ago, if you were to come to our, 13 years ago, if you were to come to our property, I said, here's $100. Are you watching time? How much time have we used? You watching it? Someone watching it? How much time? Oh, thank you. I can slow down a little tiny bit. A lot of time for professionals here. If we give you $100 and said, here, you can have this $100 if you can find a bug, a spider, anything, any living creature, after an hour you would have given up and given the $100 back. Now not only do we have, you know, hundreds of things like daddy long, and I mean hundreds, I would say even thousands of daddy long legs. But that snake back, that was a clump of 13. When you start finding nests of baby snakes in January, where the mother has laid the eggs and they hatch and they're holding together to stay warm, and then in spring they're going to emerge, and you see 10 to 20 snakes a day, then you multiply that roughly by 10. So we're just absolutely thrilled how much habitat we created by virtue of not practicing what I see as modern agriculture, and what is very much transposed into our gardening when we get told to have everything neat and tidy and clean because you've got to watch out for all those bugs and those parasites. Everything needs to be neat and tidy. And then we're taking away the biodiversity, we're taking away the housing for the quail who eat your wood bugs. We're taking away not just the housing for the bad bugs and the slugs, but we're also taking away the housing for the good bugs. So yes, you might be removing all the zebras, but you're also removing all the lions. That's one of the many reasons we don't till. You need a predator-prey balance. Okay? One of the main ways that we do everything we do, including couples counseling, marriage counseling, the many things that we do in our home, in our community, we do intuitively. And so for years, as a child, I observed the swallows in Richmond and Burgundy when I grew up. And I, in kind of in a Rain Man sense, I noticed these patterns. And then now I've learned that the swallows don't just go look at the calendar. Oh, it's May 1st! Time to get up to Canada! You know, they just kind of have all these other things like the moon and the stars and the barometric pressure and the temperature and fat reserves and following the insects. They have a whole bunch of things to go by. And so one day, the swallows showed up, as they always do, and I said, and I looked at the kitchen window and I said, the swallows are here. It's time to plant zucchini. And I just kind of felt kind of silly, like, ooh, kind of new agey, like, ooh, like horoscope. And then later we found out there's all kinds of cultures, and even in Western cultures where monks go by the swallows as their kind of hallmark in the calendar when you plant this and that. So now we've started to become more conscious and more aware and start noticing without necessarily writing it down, because we don't have to, when the swallows were here watching the weather, I just can't handle all that record keeping. That's not, I'm just like, don't have that scientist side. I'm more just kind of like, go as I go. Swallows here, get the seeds, honey, come on. Okay, everyone can have a bee house. Bee houses. Ducks are amazing. They swallow the slugs. They're so much fun, and especially the musketeers. And the female ducks, they all go in this circle and they have this whole session where they all kind of, and have this whole talk and everything. It's just so amazing. Even if you just have like 2 chickens, and remember most animals are like pack, herd, flock. So, try to have at least 2 of something, whether it's horses or goats or something. Don't have them lonely. Otherwise, they think you're like the big duck, and then they're following all the time. Like, get away, get a life. Like, but you're the big duck. You bring me food. You take me for the duck. So have 2 or more. It just kind of makes the whole experience. Even if you have very little room, you can have a little chicken tractor which you drag around your lawn. Animals, just so much help. Okay, thank you, animals. Again, we're letting stuff go to seed. Greenhouse, all recycled materials. An example of how we have a couple of areas called no man's land and no woman's land. We try to be kind of gender fair, maybe not gender neutral, and so this is no woman's land. And basically, well, sometimes there's women there, and so you can kind of see the contrast there, their friendly neighbor. It's so funny, just one quick story. In the very beginning of this process, there was a public meeting, and the neighbor came, and the first thing he said, he spoke out of turn, didn't raise his hand, just spoke out, he said, "My neighbor doesn't work, he just grows vegetables for money." Yeah, I'm just one lazy bastard. So flash forward to one little positive story. So 3 years later, we finally, for the first time, after 3 years of asking for this, and letters and emails and appeals from across Canada, finally we had our first public consultation session. We hired a brand new planner. In the last civic election, the turnout for Nanaimo was 26%, which is fairly common now. The capital of British Columbia, where the ruling Wanta lives, the people that might wipe out the ALR in the next few months and put pipelines across Canada, a 26% turnout. Landsville went from 22 to 44%, and we removed 3 of the councillors who were against us, and the incumbent mayor, who was a 3-time incumbent mayor, removed. So, a couple weeks ago we had the session, and this same neighbor, not mentioning names, or if that's his house, he said, and he was doing that, it was the planner, he was talking to the planner, and it was Janine actually, he goes, I don't understand, and he was doing that whole kind of like innocent question trick. Explain something to me. When I grew up, you grew food for yourself and your family, and you gave the rest away. Since when do people grow food for profit? We're sitting here like, on one hand, like, just living in rage. That's the greatest thing he ever could have said. Someone's just like, cuckoo, right? So, yeah. Keep talking, buddy. Okay. And notice how all these things are growing together here, and how much happier they are. These are touching. Read the book, Secret Life of Plants. Plants, how many people don't like to be touched? Is there anyone here that doesn't want to be touched? Put your hand up. Okay? Like you watch, how does a hug feel? You think plants are that different? Like, how many plants, name a plant that doesn't like to be touched? Cacti! Right? How often you see a plant, it's like, cacti, right? Go ahead, touch me. Go ahead, see what happens, buddy. I'm gonna poke you. Poke you in the eye! Oh, there's an eye? Right? But all the other plants, right? So this whole, when I went to Germany, you could shoot at Belgium and the bullet would hit Belgium because all the trees in Germany are straight lines and we can keep them all perfect, right? That's not how nature works. So we've been learning more and more to mix the plants and put different plants together without even opening a companion plant book. Get that out, dyslexic moment, right? Okay, so the Aspen Grove private school kids came. I thought they would just be, am I allowed to swear? Shits. But they were amazing. This is like February, and they were eating onions and eating beets and eating parsnips. And it was absolutely fantastic, and it was just such a lesson to see how powerful to get these kids out of the damn classroom, onto the land, getting things in their hands that they could touch and compete with, see who could eat the most onion. It's just absolutely, what a wonderful and encouraging experience that was. Farm tours. Even if you only have a little tiny place in the city, have little tours, have little open houses. Do you know why you invite the neighbors when you have a party? Do you know why you do that?
So they don't call the cops.
Right. And if they call the cops, why do they call the cops?
Because you're too noisy.
Nope.
Because they're not invited. Oh.
Right. Because they're pissed off. I gave you a jump the other day. I babysat your kid. You're gonna make you pay, right? So there's huge power in inviting other people into your life and being vulnerable and opening your doors and not going, oh my God, what if mom comes and sees the house is messy? Nicole still worries about that, right? That's the only time we really clean the house, eh? Mom's coming. Criticism, judgment. Right? So be vulnerable, take risks, open your life, open your home, have parties, have potlucks, have celebrations, and you will do way more than all the conferences. I used to go to these conferences, and a couple years ago we stopped going because they were too much. This one was way better. Oh, it took you 41 jumps. This was great. Ones we've been to, where the entire day was people standing up and youth groups standing up. We need food for this. We need food for that. We need food for property owners. We need food for First Nations. We need food for people who are, challenged in height. We need people who can't talk. We need food for dogs and cats who can't eat meat. It's like, wow. No farmers, other than Nicole and I, a couple other people, and no one talking about how, where we're going to get this food, who's going to grow it, right? So what's exciting about this conference is now we're going to talk about capacity building and how we're going to do that. And so the fastest way I know how to capacity build is like what our Azim's talk, we involve people in what we're already doing, and they go, really? Well, I want to do this too. Like, we've had phone calls, hundreds of phone calls and emails, including one family saw us on Shaw, a 60-second clip, and a 16-year-old boy. If you know what you're like, what 16-year-old boys are like, oh my God, that was crazy. And by the time I was 17 years old, I had 41 points on my driver's license. I was cuckoo. 16-year-old boy went to parents and says, Mom, Dad, we're going to grow a garden. Yo, I'm down with that. Right? This is the power of reaching people through cinnamon buns and chocolate chip cookies. How many houses have we looked at recently and we walk in the door and there's a fresh thing of chocolate chip cookies? Sneaky. I know that trick, but it still works on you. Like, you're trying to, I really want to buy this house. Okay. Beans. Okay. And note that's the north side. So we've got the Scotland runners on the north side, which go right over the top and come down the other side in fall. So all the other beans have capped and died, and those Atlantic tough British Empire beans continue. Excellent. All right, lots of stuff growing there. Lots of garlic. Keep up the grass. There's a lawn. Back for a second. Again, the power of having people there, picking things up, pulling things to the ground. Less talking, more action. Less books and more actually touching and smelling. At the farmer's market, pick up, what's this, what's this, what's this, and blah, 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 blah. What's this, oh, what is that, blah, blah, what's chocolate, blah, 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 blah. No, none of that, none of that. Picked it up, here, rub, smell, done, sold. Jerusalem artichokes, what do you do with those? I mean, what do you do with them? I mean, no, seriously, what are you doing? And then Nicole, of course, is very good about it. She started telling me, like, people pick up figs at the farmer's market. What do you do with it? I go, at the end of the farmer's market, like $100 worth of fig, boom, boom, fart, fart. Right? But I do sell a lot of figs because I just go like this, and I try one. Oh, those are good. And then they stop saying, do I have to have goat's cheese, and do I have to stuff it, do I have to saute it, do I have to dehydrate it, does it have to be washed in bleach? None of that. They get it in the mouth, the conversation is over. Okay. Aw, cute.
That's cute too.
So I just came back up. Behind every good man, there's often a good and quite often better woman. Thank you, Nicole. 1,000 pounds of butternut, just this little short section. That butternut came from this patch.
What's that?
1,000 pounds of butternut. Just this patch here is only one kind of squash. Every year we grow just butternut here. The other patch is 12 kinds of squash around that circle around the pond towards the ski boat there in the back, which is not ours.
Earlier in the season, it's our garlic patch.
Right. Oh yes. So garlic, and then right here we plant potatoes, and then as the squash spreads, we dig up 1,000 pounds of potatoes, and we start harvesting the garlic as it gets chased by the squash. So, and then there's raspberries along the fence. If you have a fence, use it. Beans, raspberries, marionberries. What a great place to grow things that are like, it's protected, it's not in your way, it's not poking you, it's not pissing you off the wheelbarrow. If you have a fence, just look at it as another trellis. Like, oh, yeah, ugly fence. No, that's a trellis. That's a money-making machine. Okay, there's the pond, and you can see where the squash has gone almost all the way around to the back of the bean patch there.
Was the pond there when you got the land?
I dug it. That was automatic intuitive. And I could do a whole hour talk on the biodiversity and the duck showing up, the heron showing up, and all the different animals showing up, and all the water insects, and the freshwater shrimp, and then the water plants, so filtering the water, which that water eventually finds its way through our gravel into our 16-foot well, and so we're getting the water purified by the plants, and it just goes on and on and on. At the time I just had this kind of like urge, dig a pond. Maybe some ducks will show up. Maybe I can shoot them like Elberfoot. Blam, blam. Just kidding. And so, I scared there for a moment, had to go. Okay. You rascally rabbits. Eastern cottontails, they're pests. I guess we could eat those. Okay. Squash. Yeah, right, okay. So here's someone in North Nanaimo. And look at how much effort they've gone to. Yeah. Okay. Pallet. Gutters. Vinyl siding. Balcony. And the reason I say this, and anyone here who lives in, I got a basement suite, it's north facing, I have no window, find, like the landlord showed me, just like a tiny spot, if it's just like a cardboard box with some soil that someone gave you, and a few plants that someone gave you. Like, anyone comes to our house, year round we will give you plants. We'll feel sorry for you. Just pull something, oh, I don't have any money, I'm a single mom, my car's broken, anything, say anything, we'll just give you plants. Just don't say something like, will that fit my Mercedes? Then maybe we'll charge you. But we're happy to give plants. Most gardeners are just so happy that you're going to join with them. It's just like, people who drink and people who do other things are like, hey, you want a toke, man? Hey, you want a beer, man? It's that whole joining thing, that whole herd thing. People don't like to do things alone, right? So we feel more secure when we know everybody in this room is gardening. Oh yeah, I got parsley in my windowsill. Oh yeah, I got chives. Absolutely, everyone can be growing something. And it's not that I want you all to be growing food, it's that I'm all wanting everyone to become more connected to the land and where food comes from, to ground you in that reality. So even if you live in an apartment and you work for VHA 7 days a week on the full hours and nights, you're speaking, at least from the authority, well, I grow chives on my windowsill. Feel the power in that? Brrr. I got chives on the dash of my Corolla. Yeah. Okay? Like doghouse. Like even the dogs grow the food, right? Good for me. Good for digestion. Okay, that's what he said. Dog speak. Farmers market. Children. Gotta have kids involved. Okay, farmer showcase very quick. Time. How much time we got left? 20. Oh, good. That's just enough time to finish and then questions and then, okay. And I need that 5 minutes at the end, please. Okay, so, give me a warning at 6. So, farm showcase. So, over 6 years ago, 7 years ago, Nicole and I decided we might need another farmer's market. So we went around to all the vendors at all the farmer's markets and said, we're going to put on a farmer showcase. We're just kind of making it up as we go along. And we just said, we've got to get everyone together in the last week of October. And all the farmer's markets at that time, there's no farmer's market that went beyond Thanksgiving. All the farmer's markets are closed at that time. And just bring your produce, bring out a lot of jars of time you have left, and let's see what happens. Well, I would have been more than happy for 100 people to show up if it was raining, and 200 if it was not. We went to vendors and we said, $20 deposit, we'll give you your measly, stinking, rotten $20 back if you'll just come. Please help us make it a success. And some vendors took weeks. Oh, what is this again? I don't have time to read this right now. So we begged vendors. And the vendors came.
3,000 people.
And so did 3,000 people. And so then there was these people who we asked to fill out surveys, right? So they're going around saying, do you want a farmer's market? And they were kind of like the nerdy type that really liked the rules and facts and stuff, and I'm not like that. I remember them coming up to me and they're like, we have all these papers, what are we going to do with them now? How will we organize this? We have the answer. These people want a farmer's market. Yes, but we need to tabulate these and add up all these numbers. I'm like, and that one guy got really mad at me. You don't respect paper! No, I don't! So anyway, so the long and the short of it, that coming spring, we started the Bournemouth Farmers Market, which is now in its 6th year, and yes, we get calls from farmers market managers and presidents in the British Columbia Association of Farmers Market on a regular basis to ask us what it is that we do. We just simply focus on food and farmers, and it's a very build it and they will come. Farmers Market. So I want to be back up for a sec. I'll just be honest with what I'm up to. If you look at my photo albums, I just have pictures of Lake Tofino, mountains. I never have pictures of, people have those pictures of mountain pieces. This one's better. And they got that, and their eyes are red. I just don't have any of those. But over the years as an activist, 20 years as an activist,
This
especially.
is tea, by the way. Okay.
I smelled them up. 20 years as an activist, French Blackwood Sound Roast Committee, clear cutting, all that kind of thing. I just got tired fighting against everything and everyone all the time. And I didn't realize that in my process of working through my own shit and fighting everything, that I missed a piece. And the piece is that ultimately we need to learn to work with people. Even if you've been wounded, marriage, parents, abused, police, whatever your wound is, ultimately, we all need each other. We are all connected whether we like it or not, and we all need to become better at getting along and working with each other. So a few years ago, I kind of added that piece to my activism. Oops! I need people to buy our vegetables. Better be nicer to them at the market. Remember that time when the person says, "What's a garlic state?" I said, "It's the tops of garlic." She goes, "What's a garlic state?" I says, "What part of garlic don't you understand?" I'm like, did I just say that? Did I just lose another catcher? Dang, I did! Down there! So I've had to kind of shift my tone a little bit. Be willing to share recipes and, be more flexible. So these pictures are about the piece that I've added to my own life, and that's understanding that for us to make the change, we need to be the change, and part of being the change is involving others in the change that we want to be and we want others to be.
Feast of Fields.
Right.
Consider the power of being there. Like, this is just an image on the screen. Right? How that feels. How you'd feel there, and how you'd feel participating, how you'd feel as one of the growers.
What was it, Dirk?
I lost track. It was one of those, I did a simple search for Feast of Fields, and I just spent hours finding just a couple of photos that would made me feel. I told this woman who was nursing her baby and whacking his back so hard I thought it was going to be an injury. And I went up to her and I said, "Thank you so much for nursing your baby, like full on." And I told her, regularly post things on my Facebook that say, "Put a blanket over your own head." And thank you also for whacking him in a way that I thought you were going to jump up and try to stop you. He was kind of burping. And then didn't leave the room when he was crying. Because here we're standing here and saying, we need to involve young people. Young people nowadays need to get do-do-do. Can you take your screaming baby out of here? Right? So I said, thank you for staying in the room with your screaming baby. Right? So if we want to have farmers, less than 5% of farmers in British Columbia are under the age of 30. 75% of farmers in Canada are going to retire in the next 15 years. 85% of farmers in Canada have an off-site job to make ends meet. If we want new farmers, our entire culture and cultural attitudes about work, about becoming a computer programmer, about who we want our son and granddaughter, daughter to marry, all of these things all need to be shifted. And it starts right here with these wonderful children who may not do things perfectly, but you get them, and as Arsena said, if kids grow kale, they will eat kale. Proven at the farmer's market, the mothers and the fathers who give the money to the child, and the child buys the beet, that beet will go home and that child will prepare, and that will be the part of dinner that he or she was in charge of, and you will be damn well eating it. It's amazing. Please.
Your farm is 2.47 acres.
2.47.
Yes.
So just under 3 acres.
Okay, how many people could eat out of those 2.47 acres? And what percentage of their food needs would come up?
It's not a number I've been able to conjure up. I can tell you that we grow a lot closer to 20,000 pounds of food. And it's really hard because I can tell you we feed a lot of people with that because we grow almost no salad greens. I get a little bit cranky when people keep sending me pictures of high rises with salad greens. So we grow 6,000 pounds of squash. This year at least 6,000 pounds of potatoes. So we're growing a lot of dense foods. And so it would take some time, and I would need someone else to do that. It's not some.
Would it be possible to feed a few people 100% out of your farm?
Absolutely. Let me just go big picture for a moment to answer a question I think will serve the group, is that the UN number for feeding a person is 1 acre per person. Now, of course, that's with conventional farming, that's including oil and cotton for clothing, etc. The American number is 2 acres per person. Now, you start thinking about that and you realize we don't have enough food in North America to feed the existing population, let alone an increased population, let alone an increase in waste, and let alone the fact that that most people are eating more and more calories and more fat and more processed foods. So that's why one of the reasons Nicole and I grow like this is because we need to learn to grow more food using less land, and we need to learn to eat foods that are more nourishing so we don't need to eat as much of them, which is part of the reason I have this body. I could rip off my shirt for you if you like, at 54, and I have the energy I do, even though what we've been through and what we do for a living, right? So I'd love some help with that sometime, but it's a very, we need to tabulate all the things we grow and then have someone figure that out in calories and kilojoules and how many carrots they would need to eat. And then there's our eggs, of course. Yeah. Sorry, I can't answer better than that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I just never say I don't know, so that was, I can feel myself getting sweaty. We're working on that.
How do you keep the deer?
I'm just pondering whether to tell the truth or not. Okay, so first of all,
The freezer's full of venison.
well, sorry, what's that?
The freezer's full of venison.
Oh.
I know a farmer that, no. I know someone, like when they go into the radio show, I know someone that has an itch, and she, yeah. So, does anyone have a relative that comes at Christmas that you wish they'd stop coming? I'm sure, well, I'm going to assume the laughter means you do. Why do you keep inviting them? So the first thing with deer is stop inviting them. You know, act like you don't like them. Don't do that kind of Canadian Englishing. It was really good meeting you. Come again anytime. And then as soon as you turn your back, you hear the person say, why does he keep eating? I just can't stand that guy. Right? So with deer, you've got to make it really, really unfriendly. So you start with behaviors, and then you move on to slingshot, and you know, you just keep ramping it up, and eventually they just kind of like, whoa, this is something really unfriendly. The other thing that's really helped this year is those areas where you saw no man's land, no woman's land. That is actually done the most so far in the crucial times when everything is kind of dying off, and we've just got a few lettuce left and a few markets left, and they're eating like $200 of lettuce a night and $200 of spinach a night, $200 worth of beans a night. Is as they walk through no man's land and do their browse, they oh, a little bit of kale and a little bit of parsnip, and we're even eating the morning glory. Stupid deer, thank you. Don't tell them, right? And a little pear, and a little apple, and snap. By the time they got the lettuce, like, I'm kind of full. Who the hell would want to eat lettuce after that? That was good. And then they leave. It's like, wow. So that was a big learning after all those years of keeping the weed-free and neat and tidy, impress the neighbors, and the by law enforcement. The biggest deterrent has been feeding them here. Just like with a child, you don't grab the knife out of the kid's hand. Give me that, you stupid kid. You go, here, Johnny. Here's a little toy. There you go. Thank you. Good boy, right? So that's why I learn with kids. You don't yank things with the hands with the deer. We offer them alternatives. Okay, next question. Let's hear.
So I learned quickly on when in the sharing farm, both the joys and the troubles of working with youth. But I have to say, like, from my own experience at my own farm, we had my daughter's grade 2 class come, and there's so much hunger for kids to not just, you know, tour, but actively participate. So, you know, it was June, and the kids were here, and they're itching, you know, it's summertime. Okay, why don't you break off a few of those scapes over there? And literally in 5 minutes, they had 40 pounds of scapes harvested. These are like 6-year-olds, right? Or 7-year-olds. So the question is, how do you, I think more farms are reluctant to have young people at
I think I know your question, please.
So who, like, what are some of the benefits you've seen? Or
Absolutely. Benefits to the farmer, benefits to the
well,
youth.
I'm trying to think, how do you sell it to other farmers? Like, so I think it'll have to be more direct benefit to you.
Right. Yeah, and really as activists, and many of us in this room are really in sales and marketing. I don't like to think of those terms, but really, you know, I have a product which is called Changing the World. You know, one person at a time. And I'm here to sell you on these ideas that you're already quite familiar with. I'm wanting you to buy more of them. I want you to shop this way more, right? And so what we have found, because I like things to be a certain way, as many of us do, and tramping. So it may not have been obvious, but we have strings up on all our beds. Really low cost, nylon, last 3 years string on stakes. So people right away, the first thing they get is trained. You only go in here. You don't even put your hand to weed. So that's a huge thing for us because the number one growing ingredient is what?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
What is the number one growing ingredient? What's the most?
Soil.
Oxygen.
Oxygen. You don't want
Oxygen.
water.
We've got the garlic scapes. We've got potatoes to harvest. So we've got different projects like that normally we would do just automatically. Like, why would you have a bunch of kids do firewood? That seems stupid. Well, we have some kids now that this is their huge thing, particularly single mom, which huge number of single moms nowadays. It's just absolutely fantastic for these boys to burn up some of the finish like that. So they get mad when they find out we're splitting over firewood. You've been up splitting off firewood, boy. You know, they just get mad. So we have, you know, set projects in set areas that are controlled. You know, moving stuff, cleaning up stuff, digging, because they don't look at the world the way we do, right? They don't want to weed? That's because we weed 7 days a week. That's why we hate weeding. You know, well, this is fun. Oh, look, can I eat this? Pepper grass. Oh, try that. Right? So how well is that answered so far? Does that help?
I like the idea of having set projects or set.
Yeah, not just like panic, and they can tell you're doing it. You're like, well, I don't know what we could have you do without ruining the place. Right? They can feel that whole authority, parental, don't go in there, Johnny, no, you can't drive the car, put the knife down. They can feel that parental, authoritarian kind of energy, so you already have it. So you don't come to the door and go, oh, you're here. Oh, I guess, honey, what do we give the kids to do? Oh. Instead, you go to the door, even if you have to lie. Hi, really good to see you. Then you say, I'll be right out. And then you sit there and go, oh my God, oh my God. And then, between you, your partner, your spouse, or whatever, then, you'll have some kind of thing to occupy them, so you might wreck the place. Okay. Yeah, always act friendly. Even if you're really cranky, miserable, they came early, they came in the wrong day, lie your face off. Do not tell the truth. You still go and go, oh, we went there, we tried to help them. Oh, they didn't want our help. They tell everybody that. So you gotta, put on your happy face. It sucks, but do the Canadian thing. Hi, please, your question.
Actually, I
Is
can
that
just
legal?
add to that. We have beachcombers school in Fanny Bay.
Right.
It's our farm a few times a year. And one of the things is they have to go by the chicken yard, feeding chickens. They love
Oh, yeah.
the chickens.
Thank you for adding that piece, if I can jump in. Absolutely, if you want to moderate, control, or even have kids busy that you don't want them in the garden, these are too young, or there's too many, or they're kids that are just too rambunctious, send them to the chickens. You just have to instruct them not to chase them around and all that, and explain the 2-foot rule, and show them that it's not about dominating them because they've been dominated by their older sibling or their parent. And teach them respect and everything. They will spend hours. They'll come back and they'll tell you stories and everything else. You give them some food. Oh, and you teach the kids how to pull weeds for the chickens. That is the best. And make them pull the hardest, smallest, silliest, need small hands weeds. Oh yeah. These? Oh yeah. Only those. The chickens really, really like those. Works really well. 5 minutes? Okay. Video and then close. Unless, one more quick.
Why did you plant your potatoes so deep?
We can get more into it after, but basically we're capitalizing on moisture and on the soil, and we put a little bit of soil, and just like with planting with barrels and tires and all that, we're going like this, and so then we have 2 or 3 stories of potatoes, and then they dry up, and then they're still growing, and then we have the potatoes, way more potatoes basically, is a short version, and we're planting, those we're planting in February. We generally plant potatoes starting the 1st February, whether it's snowing, and we even plant them that day it was actually snowing. We plant them snowing in the snow. Because we don't have time in May. Okay? So when anyone ever asks you, how can one person make a difference, ask them if they've ever had a mosquito in their tent. How many times have you hit yourself and hurt yourself way more than just letting the bloody thing bite? Ask them about Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all these other people, Vandana Shiva. All of these people are making a difference. And so what I want is that for all of you to leave here today newly and freshly excited about what you're already doing and how you're going to get better at living the wonderful life you are, and that being a radiant, inspiring example for others. Thank you so much.